Picture this. You're sitting at a desk and you're just staring blankly at page 42 of this incredibly heavy, incredibly dusty grammar textbook.
Oh, yeah. We know that feeling.
Right. The fluorescent lights overhead are buzzing with that low, headache-inducing hum.
Like a dentist's office.
Exactly like that. And in the background, there's a cassette tape playing. Or, maybe it's a digital file that somehow, against all odds, still sounds exactly like a degraded cassette tape from 1973.
With that awful static in the background.
Yes, the static. And it's playing this robotic, perfectly monotone voice, just going, hello, how are you?
I am fine, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And you just stifled this massive yawn, staring at the clock as the second hand practically moves backward.
It is absolute torture.
It really is. For anyone who has ever tried to learn a new language, I feel like this is the universal shared trauma. You sit there completely uninspired and you think to yourself, there has got to be a better way to learn a language than this.
Well, it's a painful image because, honestly, it's so accurate to the standard educational model.
It really is.
And the reason that scenario feels so unbearable is that it is entirely disconnected from the way human beings actually communicate in the real world.
Which is dynamic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That classroom environment takes something incredibly dynamic. I mean, human language is built on emotion, urgency, connection, and it just strips it down to mathematical formulas.
It's just rules and charts.
Yeah, it becomes stiff, it becomes dry, and quite frankly, it becomes an exercise in sheer endurance rather than actual learning.
And what we are exploring today completely flips that model on its head.
Totally.
Because what if the secret to fluency, the real key to mastering English and sounding natural, isn't buried in that textbook at all?
Spoiler alert, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
What if the ultimate language laboratory is actually sitting right there in your living room, inside your favorite Hollywood blockbuster?
That is the premise.
So today, we're throwing out page 42. We are taking a deep dive into a completely different approach, and we're going to build a comprehensive, step-by-step roadmap for a beginner to use movie resources to achieve real fluency.
Yeah, the goal today is to give you a highly practical, actionable blueprint. We're not just dealing with theory here.
Right, we want actual steps.
So we're going to start by outlining exactly which movies should go on a beginner's watch list, to ensure you get exposure to clear, slow dialogue without sacrificing the actual entertainment value.
Because if it's boring, you won't watch it.
Exactly. And from there, we will construct what we call a subtitle staircase.
I love that term.
It's a very specific method to use subtitles to gradually kind of transition your brain away from your native language.
Step by step.
Right. And finally, we'll break down the physical mechanics of language learning with specific shadowing exercises.
Shadowing, which sounds very cool.
It's very cool. These are routines designed to actually train the physical muscles in your mouth to replicate the natural pronunciation of a Hollywood actor.
Okay, let's lay the groundwork first. Because before we dive into picking the perfect movie or analyzing browser extensions, we really need to understand the underlying mechanism here.
The why behind it all.
Yeah, the why. If we are telling you, the listener, to abandon the traditional study methods you grew up with, why is this cinematic method actually scientifically superior to doing grammar drills?
Well, the foundational difference really lies in the gap between theoretical language and applied language.
Okay, explain that.
So traditional learning materials like your textbooks, your vocabulary flashcards, grammar worksheets, they provide a highly formalized, sterile version of English.
The perfectly correct version.
Right. It teaches you the rules of the road, but it never actually puts you behind the wheel.
That makes sense.
Movies, on the other hand, provide the crucial missing ingredients that make language stick in the human brain.
Which are what?
Well, they offer natural rhythm, deep emotional context, immediate cultural immersion, and this vital linguistic concept known as connected speech.
Okay, let's pause on connected speech for a second, because that is the phenomenon where native speakers essentially mash their words together, correct?
Yeah, it's the reality of how language actually sounds in the wild.
It's messy.
Very messy. If you read a textbook, it will painstakingly teach you to enunciate the sentence, "I should have gone to the store."
Every word is its own little island.
Exactly. But native speakers, when they are operating at normal conversational speed, they rarely speak with that kind of robotic separation.
No.
In a movie, a character who is rushing out the door is just going to say, "I should have gone to the store."
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Exactly. Or consider a phrase like, I am going to get a cup of coffee.
Right.
A native speaker just says, I'm going to get a cup of coffee.
Gonna get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just flows.
And if you only ever study the textbook version, the moment you step onto a street in New York or London, you are going to be completely overwhelmed.
Because the language you studied doesn't match the language being spoken.
Precisely. Movies replicate this reality. The actors are trained to deliver lines with the natural cadence, that messy connected speech, and the emotional weight of real life.
And the emotion matters, right?
It matters immensely. When your brain ties a new piece of vocabulary to a strong visual and a compelling emotional narrative, the retention rate just skyrockets.
Now, the idea of an emotional narrative boosting memory, that makes intuitive sense. But what is really compelling is that the sources for our deep dive today provide hard data to back this up.
Yeah, they do. It's not just theory.
There was this fascinating experimental study conducted on 8th grade students at a school called SMPN 1 Pekan Bata in Indonesia.
Right, during the 2023 to 2024 academic year.
Yeah. And the researchers wanted to test exactly this theory, whether visual media and subtitles genuinely outperform standard comprehension. So they took 57 students and they split them into 2 groups.
And the isolation of variables here is what makes it so compelling. Well, both groups of 8th graders watched the exact same movies, but the control group watched the movies entirely without subtitles,
Okay.
while the experimental group watched the movies with English subtitles turned on.
And they measured the starting line before the experiment even began, right?
Yes. Both groups were given a pretest to measure their baseline vocabulary.
So they were starting from the same place.
Exactly.
Ah.
The control group started with an average score of 56, and the experimental group started at 58.
So practically identical in their starting capability.
Very close, yes.
But after the movie intervention phase, the divergence was staggering.
It really was.
The control group, the ones just watching the movie without text, they improved to an average score of 76 on the post-test.
Which is a solid bump. I mean, movies alone do help.
Yeah, that is a solid bump.
Yeah.
But the experimental group, the ones utilizing the English subtitles, they skyrocketed from 58 to an average score of 90.
An average of 90. It's incredible. And when you look at the statistical analysis behind those numbers, the researchers found an improvement so massive that it statistically rules out any possibility of coincidence.
It wasn't just a fluke.
No, the p-value was less than 0.001. It definitively proved that combining visual media with English subtitles creates this cognitive powerhouse for vocabulary acquisition.
And the scientific term for this is multimodal input, right?
Yes, multimodal input.
Let's break down multimodal input for the listener, because it sounds fancy, but what is actually happening in the brain when someone watches a movie with subtitles?
Well, think about the traditional classroom again.
Okay.
You are relying almost entirely on a single mode of input. Usually it's reading text on a page, or maybe listening to that droning cassette tape we mentioned.
Right. 1 sense at a time.
Multimodal input means you are firing on multiple sensory cylinders simultaneously.
Oh, I see.
You're seeing the visual context of the scene, like a man looks angry and slams a door.
So that's the visual mode.
Exactly. And at the exact same time, you're hearing the auditory input, the specific tone, the pitch, the speed of the words he yells.
Auditory mode.
And simultaneously, you are reading the textual representation of those words in the subtitles.
Textual mode.
Right. So the brain isn't just trying to memorize a word in a vacuum. It is weaving this dense web of associations. Sight, sound, text, and emotion are all locking together.
To anchor that new vocabulary word deep in your long-term memory.
Precisely.
It's like the difference between reading a thick, dry manual about the physics of swimming versus actually jumping into a pool.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Like, the textbook can explain buoyancy and stroke technique all day long.
Yeah.
But until you are in the water, feeling the fluid dynamics,
Yeah.
Managing your breath and coordinating your limbs, you aren't really swimming.
You're just thinking about swimming.
Exactly. Learning from a movie is jumping into the pool. You are completely immersed in the actual living environment of the language.
The swimming analogy is incredibly apt. You're moving from the theory of the language into the physical immersive experience of it.
But if we follow that swimming analogy, it brings up an immediate problem.
Which is?
Well, if you're a beginner who barely knows how to tread water, you do not want to jump into the deep end of the ocean during a hurricane.
No, you do not. That is a recipe for drowning.
You need a controlled environment, like a shallow pool with clear water. So, translating that back to you, the listener, how do you choose the right movie? Because booting up the most complex, dialogue-heavy thriller on streaming isn't going to work.
It will absolutely backfire, and this is where many enthusiastic learners inadvertently sabotage themselves.
They just pick their favorite movie and get crushed.
Exactly. There is a golden rule for beginners when selecting a movie, and it's based on the concept of comprehensible input.
Comprehensible input.
You must find a specific sweet spot of about 70% comprehension.
70%.
Do not watch movies that are completely opaque, but equally, do not watch movies where you understand every single word.
How does a listener actually gauge 70% comprehension? Like, what does that feel like in practice?
It feels like understanding the overarching narrative without needing to know every single noun and verb.
Okay.
If you understand 90 to 100% of the dialogue, you aren't really learning anything new. You've just found a comfortable form of entertainment.
Right, you're coasting.
Exactly. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you understand barely a word, maybe 10 or 20%, your brain cannot form any meaningful associations.
It's just noise.
It just sounds like chaotic noise, which turns the experience into a frustrating, overwhelming chore, and you will inevitably give up.
So why is the 70% baseline so crucial?
Because it gives your brain just enough foundational context. You understand the scene well enough that when an unknown word pops up in that remaining 30%, your brain can act like a detective.
Oh, using the visual and contextual clues.
Exactly. You deduce what that new word must mean based on everything else you do understand.
Let's get very specific for the listener. What exactly is sitting at the top of the beginner's watch list?
Well, the sources are incredibly unified on a few standout films.
Yeah, and the unanimous #1 recommendation for anyone starting this journey is the 1994 classic Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump is practically a master class in accessible English for non-native speakers.
Really? Why that one specifically?
It is entirely due to the linguistic profile of the main character. Tom Hanks plays Forrest with a very intentional, slow, deliberate Southern American drawl.
Oh, of course. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. It's iconic.
But why is that delivery so perfect for learning?
Because the character's inherent nature dictates how he speaks. Forrest expresses complex, profound observations about life and love and grief. But he does so using incredibly straightforward, accessible vocabulary.
He doesn't use massive, complicated words.
Never. Furthermore, the Southern drawl naturally elongates the vowels and inserts more pauses between words.
So it physically slows the language down.
Yes. The dialogue moves at a moderate, digestible pace. For a listener who's trying to untangle connected speech, this pacing provides the necessary auditory breathing room.
To actually catch the individual words.
Right, without feeling like they're being hit by a fire hose of syllables.
And beyond the pacing, the structure of the film is a massive advantage too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the narrative takes the viewer on a tour through decades of American history. You see the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, the hippie counterculture, the tech boom.
It's a cultural timeline.
Exactly. So you aren't just learning the mechanics of English, you are absorbing the cultural context that shapes the language. You understand why certain eras use certain slang.
And cultural literacy is deeply intertwined with language fluency.
You can't separate them.
No, you can't truly master English without understanding the cultural touchstones that native speakers reference daily.
Now, what if a learner wants a slightly different linguistic flavor? Perhaps they are targeting British English instead of American.
Well, the next major recommendation from the sources is the 2010 Academy Award winner, The King's Speech.
This recommendation is brilliant because it is literally a movie about the mechanics of speaking.
Yes, it's almost meta-educational.
It is incredibly meta. The film centers on King George VI, played by Colin Firth, as he attempts to overcome a debilitating stammer.
With the help of a speech therapist, played by Jeffrey Rush.
Right. And because the entire central conflict of the movie revolves around articulation, the film practically slows down to focus on pronunciation.
You are watching a character perform vocal warm-ups. They're discussing breath control and focusing on the physical shape of the mouth when forming vowels.
It's literally a pronunciation class on film.
Yes, and it offers an incredibly rare opportunity for a language learner. You are exposed to contrasting registers of the language within a single scene.
What do you mean by contrasting registers?
Well, you have the impeccable, hyper-enunciated Queen's English of the royal family.
Very posh.
Very posh. Which is then beautifully contrasted with the casual, informal, and sometimes very colorful dialogue of the therapy session.
Oh, right. Because they clash over formality.
Exactly. And because the king speaks deliberately and often struggles to get the words out, the pacing is a perfectly controlled environment for a listener to start picking apart the unique phonetic sounds of British English.
Okay, what if a listener is looking for something a bit more domestic? Maybe they're trying to learn vocabulary for everyday life around the house, or perhaps they're studying alongside their kids.
In that scenario, a classic situational comedy like the 1990 film Home Alone is ideal.
Home Alone.
Really?
Oh, it is packed end to end with day-to-day phrases.
Oh, I guess you're right. It's just a family in a house.
Exactly. You hear vocabulary regarding household items, family dynamics, travel logistics, neighborhood interactions.
Did I pack my toothbrush? That kind of thing.
Precisely. Plus, the comedic timing of the early 90s operates at a slightly slower, more theatrical pace than the frenetic, rapid-fire comedies produced today. That's true. Modern comedies are so fast.
And the heavy reliance on physical comedy in Home Alone also provides massive, unmistakable context clues for the dialogue.
Which leads perfectly into another major category the sources recommend: animated films. Things like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, or Brave.
Animated films are a secret weapon for beginners.
Why is that?
Well, remember the target audience. These films are crafted to be understood by young native speakers who are still expanding their own vocabularies.
So the dialogue is inherently more accessible.
Yes. But the real magic lies in the visual mapping.
The visual mapping.
Yeah. In live action, an actor might deliver a line with subtle internal micro-expressions.
Hard to read sometimes.
Exactly. But in animation, the expressions are beautifully exaggerated to perfectly match the audio.
Oh, right. If they're sad, they're crying huge tears.
Exactly. If a character is expressing frustration, their entire animated body language screams frustration. This creates a one-to-one visual mapping that helps the learner connect the new vocabulary to the conceptual meaning instantaneously.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate for the listener who is highly motivated.
Okay.
Let's say they're a massive fan of Christopher Nolan or Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
They want to ignore the advice about Forrest Gump and boot up Inception or The Social Network tonight. What is the harm in jumping straight to the complex stuff if they're passionate about the movie?
The harm is immediate and severe cognitive overload, which leads directly to burnout.
Burnout.
Let's look at those two examples. Inception deals with highly abstract concepts. You've got subconscious architecture, dream states within dream states, corporate espionage.
It's confusing even in your native language.
Exactly. The vocabulary is incredibly advanced and the narrative structure is notoriously complex. Furthermore, Christopher Nolan is famous for audio mixes that intentionally bury dialogue beneath massive, booming sound effects and scores.
A Hans Zimmer Blair.
Yes. If native speakers require subtitles and multiple viewings just to understand the plot of Inception, a beginner language learner is going to hit a wall of absolute frustration.
That makes total sense. You spend the whole movie just trying to figure out what is happening, leaving zero brain power to actually focus on learning the English.
Exactly.
What about The Social Network? There are no explosions in that.
No, but Aaron Sorkin's dialogue is practically its own dialect. It is famous for being unbelievably rapid fire.
They do talk incredibly fast.
The characters in The Social Network speak at lightning speed, they're frequently interrupting each other, and they are using dense, highly specific jargon related to computer coding, legal depositions, and corporate structure.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Trying to parse that as a beginner is like trying to drink from a fire hose. The cognitive load is simply too high.
So you really have to match your tools to your current skill level.
You do. Save the Sorkin and Nolan masterpieces for the advanced stages of the journey. Start in the shallow end with Forrest Gump.
Okay, so a listener takes the advice. They pick Forrest Gump, they sit down on the couch, and they're ready to learn. But you can't just press play, sit back for 2 hours, and hope the English magically washes over your brain and makes you fluent. That sounds too passive.
It is entirely too passive. Passive watching might improve your ears slightly, but it will not build fluency.
You need a structured, active system.
Yes. And this brings us to the core methodology we call the subtitle staircase.
The subtitle staircase.
It is a multi-step viewing guide designed to intentionally and gradually move a learner from heavy reliance on their native language to complete, independent comprehension of English.
So it implies a progression of difficulty. How does the listener take that first step?
Step 1 is actually counterintuitive for many learners because step 1 is about removing all linguistic pressure.
Oh, interesting.
You do not start by watching a 2-hour movie. You pick a single discrete scene, just 3 to 5 minutes long.
Okay, a short chunk.
And you watch that scene in your native language first. or with subtitles in your native language while ignoring the English audio.
Wait, really? Why start in the native language? Doesn't that defeat the purpose of an English study session?
Not at all. It's about managing cognitive load again. When you watch a scene for the first time, your brain is working hard to establish the plot. Who are these characters? What is their relationship? What are they trying to achieve in this room?
You're just trying to follow the story.
Exactly. If your brain is busy solving the mystery of the plot, it doesn't have the processing power left to analyze new vocabulary.
I see.
By watching it in your native language first, you completely remove the burden of plot comprehension. You know exactly what is happening.
So once that cognitive load is cleared, your brain is freed up to focus entirely on the mechanics of the English language in the subsequent steps.
Precisely.
So the listener knows the plot. They know Forrest is sitting on a bench offering chocolates to a stranger.
Yeah.
What is step 2?
Step 2 is the dual subtitle phase.
Dual subtitles, so both at once.
Yes. You watch that exact same 3 to 5 minute scene again. But this time, you display both your native language subtitles and the English subtitles on the screen at the exact same time.
Wow, okay. We will discuss the specific software to achieve this in a moment, but linguistically, what does that do?
It allows your brain to map the new English sounds directly to the native language concepts you already understand in real time.
But you can't stay on step 2 forever. Eventually, you have to climb to step 3, and this seems to be where the real heavy lifting happens.
Yes, step 3 separates the casual viewer from the dedicated learner.
Step 3 is English subtitles only, but the sources emphasize that this is a highly active, almost grueling process.
It is active. You turn off your native language entirely. You are now watching with English audio and English subtitles. And here's the unbending rule of step 3. You must understand every single word on the screen.
Every single word.
You do not let a sentence pass if you are confused. You keep your finger hovering over the pause button.
Like a hawk.
Exactly. When you hit an idiom, a slang word, or a complex verb conjugation you don't recognize, you pause the video immediately. You write it down in a notebook. You look it up in a dictionary. You figure out why it was used in that context.
I actually found a brilliant technical trick in the research for this stuff.
Oh, the VLC trick.
Yeah. If a listener is using a media player like the VLC app on their computer, they can actually adjust the subtitles synchronization. They can intentionally delay the English subtitles by 2 or 3 seconds.
That is a phenomenal technique for self-testing.
It's so smart. Because if you delay the text, you force yourself to rely on your ears first. You hear the actors speak the line. Your brain scrambles to parse the connected speech and identify the words.
And then a few seconds later, the English text pops up on the screen to confirm whether you were right or wrong.
It gamifies the learning process and provides instant feedback. So you loop that 3-minute scene, pausing, researching, and testing until the dialogue becomes completely transparent.
Which prepares you for the terrifying leap to step 4.
Step 4, no subtitles at all.
The safety net is completely gone.
I imagine it always feels terrifying the first time.
It does, but remember, it is a staircase. You haven't just leaped from the ground floor.
Right, you've built up to it.
Because you have built up to it through the previous steps, when you finally watch the scene without any text on the screen, something magical happens. The chaotic sounds suddenly resolve into familiar words.
They make perfect sense without the textual crutch.
Yes. You can hear the individual syllables, you understand the emotional nuance, and you are simply experiencing the movie exactly the way a native speaker would.
And the dopamine hit from achieving that, even just for a 3-minute scene, has got to be massive.
Oh, it's the best feeling.
Now, let's circle back to the technology required for step 2, because streaming platforms like Netflix or Amazon Prime do not natively support dual subtitles. You can't just hit a button and see Spanish and English simultaneously. How does a listener practically set this up?
Well, the tech ecosystem for language learners has evolved dramatically, particularly with browser extensions for Google Chrome.
Browser extensions.
These are tools that overlay directly onto the video players of major streaming sites. The sources highlight several key players, but let's dive deeply into the 2 most practical options, starting with the premium choice, which is Fluent AI.
What elevates Fluent AI to the premium tier? What does it do that a basic subtitle tool doesn't?
Fluent AI is arguably the most comprehensive tool available right now. Yes, it provides the basic dual subtitle functionality across over 30 languages on Netflix, YouTube, Disney+, and Amazon.
That covers all the big ones.
It does. But its real power lies in the AI-powered context-aware translation.
Context-aware translation. How is that different from just having a digital dictionary pop up?
Because a standard dictionary is static. If a character in a movie says, that plan is going to tank, a basic dictionary might translate tank as a heavily armored military vehicle.
Which makes zero sense in that context.
Exactly, but Fluent AI analyzes the sentence, understands the colloquial context, and correctly identifies that tank in this instance means to fail disastrously.
Oh, that's huge.
It understands slang, it grasps idioms, it can identify the level of formality being used, and it even provides cultural notes on why a joke is funny.
That's incredible.
Furthermore, it has a built-in flashcard system utilizing spaced repetition. You can save that phrase, the plan is going to tank, directly from the Netflix video player into a digital deck to review later.
That context analysis is vital because English is so heavily reliant on idioms. But Fluent AI is a premium subscription service. If a listener wants to build a powerful system without the monthly fee, the sources point heavily toward a tool called Migaku.
Migaku.
Particularly for the power users. But Migaku requires understanding a separate concept entirely. The sources say it integrates deeply with Anki and spaced repetition systems. We need to unpack that for the listener because that sounds like technical jargon. What exactly is a spaced repetition system?
To understand spaced repetition, you really have to understand how the human brain forgets information.
Okay, give us this psychology lesson.
In the late 19th century, a psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus discovered the forgetting curve. He proves that if you learn a new piece of information today, you will forget roughly 70% of it within 24 hours unless you review it.
70% in one day. That is incredibly depressing for anyone trying to build a vocabulary.
It is depressing. But Ebbinghaus also discovered the hack to beat the curve.
Okay, what's the hack?
Every time you review the information just before you were about to forget it, the memory becomes stronger and the time it takes to forget it again gets longer.
Oh, so you stretch out the intervals.
Yes. Spaced repetition is an algorithm that automates this process. If you review a flashcard and tell the software it was easy, it won't show you that card again for a week.
And if it's easy again?
It waits a month. If you struggle, it shows it to you tomorrow.
And Anki is the most popular software for running this algorithm. So how does the Migaku browser extension tie into this?
Migaku acts as a bridge between the movie you are watching and your Anki flashcard deck.
Yeah.
If you are watching a scene on YouTube and hear a phrase you want to memorize, you click a button in Migaku. It instantly captures the subtitle, takes a screenshot of the video for visual context, records the actual audio clip of the actor speaking the line, and packages all of that into a multimedia flashcard that is automatically pushed into your Anki deck.
Wow, so it automates the flashcard creation.
Yes. It is an incredibly powerful workflow for serious learners, though it does have a steeper learning curve than a plug-and-play app.
Okay, I need to challenge the foundational premise of this entire subtitle staircase.
How for it?
I can hear the skeptics in the audience right now. Isn't relying on dual subtitles, particularly having your native language plastered on the screen, just a massive crutch? Doesn't it short-circuit the brain, allowing the listener to just read their native language and ignore the hard work of deciphering the English?
It is a very common and very logical assumption.
Yeah.
But decades of linguistic research actually prove the exact opposite. Yes. This brings us back to the theory of comprehensible input, which was heavily popularized by linguist Stephen Kreischen.
Okay, what did Kreischen say?
The core tenet is this: you cannot acquire language from input you do not understand. If you sit a beginner in a room and play a Russian radio station for 100 hours, they will not emerge speaking Russian.
It's just acoustic noise.
Exactly. The brain has nothing to latch onto.
So the brain needs a bridge to connect the unknown noise to a known concept.
Precisely. The dual subtitles act as that bridge. They provide the comprehensible input. When you hear a complex string of English-connected speech, the native language subtitle allows your brain to instantly realize, that sound means I am hungry.
It maps the new phonetic sounds to establish conceptual meaning.
Without breaking your immersion in the narrative, you understand more of the movie, which means your brain is actively processing and acquiring more language.
That makes a lot of sense.
But the critical caveat, and why the staircase method is so important, is that a crutch is only useful while the leg is healing.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
You use the dual subtitles to build the foundational mapping, but you must progressively reduce your reliance on them. Moving to steps 3 and 4, so you eventually walk on your own.
The crutch is a tool for rehabilitation, not a permanent lifestyle. All right, so you, the listener, you've picked Forrest Gump, You've installed your browser extension, you have climbed the subtitle staircase, and you can now perfectly understand a 3-minute scene without any text on the screen. The comprehension is locked in.
You're feeling good.
But understanding the language is only half the battle. To truly master English, you have to get the language out of your head and into your mouth. You have to be able to speak it.
And this is where the traditional educational model completely fails.
Because it's passive.
Comprehension is a passive cognitive skill. Fluency, the ability to speak naturally, is an active physical skill. You have to physically train the muscles in your face, your tongue, and your vocal cords.
Which brings us to one of the most powerful and transformative techniques in language acquisition, the art of shadowing. It sounds like something out of an espionage movie. What is the actual mechanic of shadowing an actor?
Shadowing is the rigorous practice of listening to a native speaker deliver a line of dialogue and immediately, almost simultaneously, repeating what they say.
Like an echo.
Yes. But the key is that you are not just reciting the words off a page. You are attempting to act as their exact vocal shadow. You must imitate their precise intonation, the rising and falling pitch of their voice, the exact rhythm of their pauses, and the underlying emotional intensity.
Why is this physical repetition so much more effective than just memorizing a vocabulary list?
Because it targets muscle memory and bypasses the analytical part of the brain. When you speak your native language, you do not think about grammar rules. Your mouth just moves automatically.
True.
Shadowing trains the physical mechanics of speech. It forces your brain's motor cortex to coordinate with your mouth to produce sounds that might not exist in your native language.
It's physical training.
It is exactly how babies learn their first language. They don't study grammar books. They listen to their parents and flawlessly mimic the sounds, the melodies, and the pitches long before they have any concept of what the words actually mean.
I like to think of shadowing as being identical to learning a new song by your favorite artist.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
You don't just pick up the sheet music and try to sing it cold. First, you just listen to the track, you absorb the beat, you might start tapping your foot. Then, on the third or fourth listen, you start kind of humming along to the melody.
Right.
Next, you start singing the actual lyrics, but you sing them softly alongside the original artist, letting their voice guide you. And eventually, after enough repetitions, you have internalized the song so completely that you can get up at a karaoke bar and perform it entirely solo.
The karaoke analogy is perfect because language has a musicality to it. Every language has its own unique rhythm, stress patterns, and melody.
And shadowing teaches you that music.
Shadowing is how you learn the specific music of English, and the sources provide highly structured, progressive exercises to move you from humming along to that solo karaoke performance.
Where do we start?
The best place to start is with technology, specifically what we will call the Speak Pro method.
Speak Pro. That's a serialized application designed specifically for this kind of vocal training, right?
Yeah.
How does a listener utilize it?
You take that 3 to 5 minute scene you have been working on. Let's imagine it's the famous, highly emotional job interview scene with Will Smith's character, Chris Gardner, in The Pursuit of Happiness.
Great scene.
You upload that YouTube clip into the Speak Pro app. The software automatically breaks the dialogue down into short, manageable sentence-by-sentence segments.
Okay.
You listen to Will Smith deliver a line, and then you record yourself shadowing that exact line into your microphone.
And the software acts as the coach.
Exactly. The AI analyzes your vocal sound waves and compares them directly to the native speaker's sound waves from the movie.
Oh, visual feedback.
It gives you instant visual feedback. It will show you exactly where your rhythm was too fast, where your intonation was flat, or which specific vowel sound you mispronounced. This immediate feedback loop is crucial because it prevents you from building bad habits.
But the sources are very clear that hitting the right syllables is not enough. You mentioned emulating emotion earlier.
Yes, very important.
If an AI app is grading my sound waves, isn't there a danger that I just become a robot, accurately mimicking another robot? How does a learner ensure they capture the humanity of the language?
That is the crucial second layer of shadowing. Emulating the emotion. You cannot just read the words with a flat academic delivery. You must commit to acting.
So you have to be dramatic.
If the character in the scene is furious and yelling, you need to stand up and project anger. If two characters are whispering a desperate secret in a hallway, you need to whisper with urgency.
Why is the acting part so important? Is it just for fun, or did the emotion actually help the learning process?
It is entirely rooted in cognitive science. Emotion acts as a superglue for memory.
The superglue.
When you match the actor's emotional energy, you're encoding the vocabulary with situational context. Your brain remembers, oh, we use this specific phrase when we are frustrated.
Which helps when you're actually frustrated later.
Exactly. It makes the language significantly easier to recall dynamically when you actually feel frustrated in a real-world scenario.
Let's move to a more intense exercise.
Yeah.
The sources detail a technique called the speak out loud overlap. This sounds like absolute chaos. How does this work?
It is an advanced technique, and it is designed to push your cognitive processing speed to the absolute limit.
Okay.
In standard shadowing, you might pause the video after a line to repeat it. In the overlap method, you let the scene play continuously, and you attempt to speak at the exact same time as the actor.
Oh, wow. You're basically talking over them.
You are essentially doing a choral reading with the movie.
That sounds like a recipe for a massive tongue twister disaster. A beginner is going to stumble instantly.
You will absolutely stumble. You will trip over your own tongue, you will lose your place, and you will feel ridiculous.
But that's the point.
But that friction is where the growth happens. When you stumble, you rewind the scene and start again. Over time, your brain and mouth adapt to the speed. You find yourself effortlessly matching their rising and falling pitch.
You just fall into the rhythm.
You start naturally clipping your T's or stretching out your vowels exactly the way the actor does. It forcibly yanks you up to the natural native speed of conversation.
Now, for a listener who might find sitting alone in their living room yelling over a movie a bit isolating, the sources do suggest a more social approach. The buddy system.
Language is inherently social, so bringing another person into the practice is highly effective.
How does the buddy system work?
It's simple. Grab a friend, a partner, or a classmate who is also learning English. Pick a great two-person scene from a movie you both enjoy, learn your respective parts, memorize the dialogue, and then actually act the scene out together, face to face.
It turns a dry study session into a collaborative performance. You have to react to your partner's tone, which mimics real conversation. There is one final exercise mentioned in the sources, and it shifts the focus slightly from pronunciation to active vocabulary recall. It's called Relate the Scene. How does a listener execute this?
This is a phenomenal test to bridge the gap between rote memorization and dynamic, spontaneous conversation.
Okay, what's the workflow?
Here is the workflow. You watch a scene that is rich in specific vocabulary. Let's imagine it is a tense legal dispute from a courtroom drama. You watch the scene, absorbing the plot and the language.
Right.
Then you turn off the video, you turn to a friend, or even just speak out loud to yourself, and you attempt to summarize exactly what just happened in the scene.
But the catch is that you can't just use basic words.
Correct. The strict rule of the exercise is that you must purposefully integrate the specific high-level vocabulary words you just heard the actors use.
So if they were lawyers?
If the actors used words like contract, breach, liability, or attorney, you must force your brain to retrieve those exact words and correctly deploy them in your own unscripted summary sentences.
That's tough.
It is. You are taking passive recognition, knowing what the word means when you hear it, and converting it into active production, summoning the word on command when you need to speak.
That is an incredibly smart way to build a functional vocabulary. Now, to return to my karaoke analogy from earlier, to sing karaoke effectively, especially when you are just learning the song, it really helps to have the lyric sheet in front of you.
Absolutely.
To properly shadow these actors and analyze their dialogue, it is immensely helpful to see the exact words they are saying, beyond just relying on the fleeting on-screen subtitles. Where does a listener go to find the actual written blueprints of these movies?
Reading the actual screenplays is the perfect, highly recommended supplement to the shadowing exercises. Having the script allows you to study the architecture of the dialogue at your own pace.
You can really dissect it.
More importantly, it highlights the stark contrast between how a scene looks when it is formally structured on a page and how it actually sounds when a human actor brings it to life through connected speech and emotion.
Fortunately, there is an entire arsenal of websites dedicated to providing free, downloadable, professional movie scripts.
Yes, there are some great resources.
The sources list some fantastic, completely free resources for the listener to build their script library. First up is a staple IMSDB, the Internet Movie Screenplay Database. If a listener is familiar with IMDb for looking up actors, this is the exact same concept, but it is a massive repository for scripts across every conceivable genre.
It is the perfect starting point. But for a learner who really wants to dig into the evolution of language, The sources point to a site called Scriptorama.
Scriptorama.
What makes Scriptorama fascinating is that it has been archiving material for nearly 2 decades, and it often hosts multiple draft versions of the exact same movie.
That is incredibly valuable. So a listener can download the rough first draft of a movie and then compare it to the final shooting script that matches what ended up on screen.
Exactly. And that comparison is an incredible lesson in concise, natural English.
Because the dialogue changes.
Yes. You might see a first draft where a character has a clunky, overly formal paragraph of exposition. But by the final draft, the writer has condensed that entire paragraph into a single, sharp, naturally flowing sentence.
They got the fat.
Seeing how professional writers edit and streamline language teaches you how to make your own speech more efficient and natural.
The sources also highlight Simply Scripts, which is praised for its massive, diverse library that goes beyond just Hollywood movies. It includes stage plays, television scripts, and even non-English scripts. And it is constantly updated with recent releases.
A great resource.
And finally, for those who want to read the absolute cutting edge of dialogue writing, there's a site called Go Into the Story.
Go Into the Story is the official blog for The Blacklist.
What's the Blacklist?
In the Hollywood film industry, The Blacklist is an annual, highly respected survey of studio executives' favorite unproduced screenplays. Because it is curated by industry professionals, you are guaranteed that the material you are reading on Go Into the Story represents the highest tier of contemporary dialogue writing.
So the listener has built their script arsenal. They have IMSDB bookmarked, they have their movie paused, and they are ready to hunt for useful dialogue. To jumpstart this process, the sources provided a fantastic list of iconic, highly useful phrases pulled directly from American cinema.
These are great.
These aren't just obscure movie quotes for trivia night. These are everyday idioms that native speakers use constantly in real life. Let's unpack some of these and explain the context, starting with a classic expression of disbelief from Marvel's The Avengers. You've got to be kidding me.
That phrase is a perfect example of applied emotion. In the film, it happens during a scene where the Hulk effortlessly and violently smashes the villain Loki into the floor, leaving him stunned.
It's poor Loki.
The phrase, "you've got to be kidding me," is the absolute most natural way for a native speaker to express shock, deep annoyance, or total disbelief at a situation.
It is so much more dynamic than just saying, I am very surprised.
"I am very surprised" is textbook English. It is grammatically correct, but it is emotionally dead. "You've got to be kidding me" adds immense color.
Right.
In real life, you wouldn't use it for a pleasant surprise, like someone handing you a gift. You use it when a situation feels unexpectedly negative or a bit unfair.
Can you give us an example?
For example, if a listener is at work, and right as they are about to present a major project, their computer crashes, saying, "You've got to be kidding me, my laptop just froze." That sounds incredibly native and perfectly captures the frustration of the moment.
Let's look at another one. This one's straight out of the slick casino heist film, Ocean's 11. I'm not buying it.
This is a brilliant phrase to master for social navigation. It simply means that you do not believe what someone has just told you. However, it is a casual, slightly cynical, and often sarcastic way to express your doubt without escalating the situation into an argument.
It is a way to save face. It softens the blow of an accusation. If a friend makes a terrible excuse for why they are late, looking them in the eye and saying, "You are a liar," is incredibly aggressive and confrontational. But saying, "You told me traffic was bad, but I'm not buying it," communicates the exact same doubt while keeping the interaction light and manageable.
Mastering phrases like "I'm not buying it" proves that you understand the social nuance and the unwritten rules of conversational English.
All right, what about the ultimate romantic comedy cliche? It is famously debated in the sitcom Friends. It's not you, it's me.
It is the quintessential classic breakup line of American pop culture. The underlying mechanic of the phrase is responsibility shifting.
Taking the blame.
When a character wants to end a romantic relationship, but they desperately want to avoid hurting the other person's feelings or causing a scene, they absorb all the blame. They are saying, "The problem isn't that you are flawed. The problem is my own complex personal issues."
It has been used so often in movies and television that it has practically become a joke. People roll their eyes when they hear it. But do native speakers actually still use it in real life?
They absolutely do, and often outside of romantic breakups. You might hear it when someone is resigning from a job or backing out of a commitment. "I love the team here, but I need a change of pace. It's not you, it's me."
Oh, I've heard that.
While it is a cliche, learning how and when to deploy cliches is actually a hallmark of advanced fluency. It demonstrates that you share the same cultural touchstones and humorous references as a native speaker.
Speaking of massive cultural touchstones, here's one from the 1939 classic, The Wizard of Oz.
We're not in Kansas anymore. I love this phrase because practically no one who uses it in real life is actually from the state of Kansas.
That is the beauty of it. The phrase is entirely metaphorical. In the film, Dorothy says it when a tornado sweeps her house away from her black and white farm and drops her into the vibrant, bizarre, magical land of Oz.
So how do native speakers use it?
Native speakers use this exact phrase anytime they step into a situation, a new environment, or a conceptual territory that is completely unfamiliar, strange, or radically different from their normal routine. Let's give the listener a practical example. Let's say you work at a traditional accounting firm, and suddenly the management replaces all the old software with a highly advanced artificial intelligence system. Looking at your coworker and saying, wow, the AI is writing all the reports now, we're not in Kansas anymore, perfectly encapsulates the feeling.
It beautifully communicates a shared feeling of disorientation, but it does so with a wry sense of humor and a shared cultural bond.
Okay, here's one that every single sci-fi fan knows from Star Wars. Han Solo says it, Luke Skywalker says it, Obi-Wan says it. I've got a bad feeling about this.
It is the signature catchphrase of the entire saga. In the context of the movies, it is a narrative device used to build suspense right before a monster attacks from the shadows or a trap is sprung by the villains.
But its utility in real life is massive.
It really is. It is the most common, natural way to express internal nervousness, apprehension, or a gut instinct that something is about to go wrong before a risky situation. We are heading into this major budget meeting and we haven't reviewed the numbers. I've got a bad feeling about this.
Let's look at the final phrase from the sources, and I want to push back on this one because this seems problematic for a beginner to use. It's the iconic line from Dirty Harry. Clint Eastwood is pointing a massive revolver at a criminal, and he squints and says, "Make my day." If a listener uses that in real life, aren't they basically challenging someone to a physical fight?
This is a fantastic point, and it highlights exactly why learning from movies and understanding context is superior to just memorizing textbook lists.
So I shouldn't use it to threaten people.
You are absolutely right about the movie context. When Dirty Harry says it, it is an intense, lethal threat. He is saying, go ahead, do something illegal, give me an excuse to shoot you. But language experiences semantic drift.
Semantic drift, meaning it changes over time.
Yes. Over the decades, the context of that phrase in everyday life has completely shifted. Today, people use this phrase warmly, positively, and with genuine gratitude.
Wait, how does a lethal threat become an expression of gratitude?
Yeah.
How does the listener use it without sounding aggressive?
It is entirely dependent on tone and body language. The literal underlying meaning is, you would make my day complete and happy.
Okay.
So, imagine a listener is having a terrible, stressful morning at the office. A coworker walks in and offers to go grab them a coffee. The listener smiles, relaxes their shoulders, and says, oh man, if you brought me a coffee right now, you would really make my day. The warm tone and the context of a favor change the meaning entirely from a threat to an enthusiastic expression of thanks. You cannot learn that critical nuance from reading a definition on page 42. You have to hear the tone spoken aloud.
The tone changes everything. That is such a vital lesson. Well, looking back at the roadmap we have constructed today, we built an incredibly powerful toolkit for you, the listener. We started by completely ditching the boring grammar textbook.
Throw it away.
We learned to select the perfect beginner movie, utilizing the slow, deliberate pacing and cultural history of Forrest Gump to hit that 70% comprehension sweet spot. We utilized advanced browser extensions like Fluent AI and Migaku to build a subtitle staircase, mapping new sounds to known concepts and integrating spaced repetition flashcards.
It's a robust system.
It really is.
Yep.
We learned how to physically train the muscles in our mouths by shadowing the emotional dialogue of actors using tools like SpeakPro. And finally, we supplemented all of that physical training by reading the actual draft scripts from databases like IMSDB to hunt for everyday natural American phrases. It is a complete, interactive, end-to-end system for fluency.
It is a comprehensive system, and if we pull back to look at the bigger picture of how we spend our time, I want to leave the listener with a final provocative challenge.
Let's hear it.
Think about the last time you sat down on your couch, exhausted, and binge-watched an entire season of a television series. Afterward, you likely felt completely unproductive. You might have even felt a little guilty for wasting the afternoon.
I think we've all been there.
But what if you could completely reframe the purpose of that television screen? What if it isn't a mindless distraction at all, but rather the ultimate highly interactive language gym? The line between mindless entertainment and active, powerful education is not defined by the movie itself. It is entirely up to you. It is entirely dependent on the intentionality you bring to the experience and how actively you choose to engage with the pause, rewind, and subtitle buttons on your remote control.
I absolutely love that framing. The remote control is not a tool for passivity. It is your gym equipment. So for you, the listener tuning in right now, here is your explicit call to action for today. Tonight, do not just put on a movie, slump into the couch, and zone out. Pick just one scene, make it 3 minutes long. Boot up a browser extension. Turn on those English subtitles. Physically stand up in the middle of your living room. And for those 3 intense minutes, don't just watch the movie. Be in the movie. Shadow the actors, match their emotional intensity, speak over them, stumble over your words, and truly feel the physical rhythm of the language in your mouth. Because I promise you, jumping into that cinematic pool and making a splash is infinitely more rewarding and infinitely more effective than sitting at a desk staring at page 42.